Shalom, Kahalo, Yahweh, Ba'ashim, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashim, Kakodash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us his truth. And shalom and salutations to all the brothers that push the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. I'm the brother Yahshua. I'm back with the WW3 Daily Update. Shalom and salutations to you as well. All right, so we're going to start right here in 2nd Ezra 16, and then we're going to let Dina deliver the update. She's pretty thorough. She'll touch on each one of the theaters of war. She usually does, and she's pretty quick about it. I wait until she brings out the under 10-minute videos because she can get long-winded sometimes, so just like me. All right, so 2nd Ezra 16 and 17. Woe is me. This is Ezra. Woe is me, woe is me. Who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. All of this comes along with war. The beginning of wars. Okay, we're going to let Dina break them down. And the power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? So the beginning of wars, right, is what we see right now. Okay, and let's count them off. All right, you got Eastern Europe, okay, which is Ukraine, Russia, so they say, which is bigger than that. It's a proxy. You have the Korean Peninsula, you have South China Sea, and you have the Valley of Yehoshaphat, which is the Middle East, and then you got Africa, okay, which they're not saying a lot about right now, but it's still going on, and it's in the scriptures, all right? And those are just a few. We have Babylon the Great. There's a war going on in America right now, okay? There's a spiritual war going on all over the world, okay? So, the beginning of wars, okay? Now, we're going to let Dina here, Dina Amelia Galmeta, 22 hours ago. And here's the crux. Here's the title. Nuclear war warning. That's just huge. The Bible speaks of nuclear war. Okay? Medvedev, everybody says that name wrong. Medvedev, they say Medvedev, right? Medvedev says Western arms for Ukraine make nuclear apocalypse more likely. So, with that, I kind of went before the intro here. And the intro is actually very biblical, right? And she gets some things wrong. She's a Christian, but the information is good. So take it away, Dina.
Welcome back again, everyone. It's Dina Calmetta here, and for today's news, I do have some headlines I'd like to share with you. And I'd like to start with Russia, as it has been reported. A member of Russian President Putin's powerful Security Council on Tuesday warned that the more destructive the weapons that the West supplied to Ukraine, the higher the risk of a nuclear apocalypse. Russia, which has more nuclear weapons than any other state, has repeatedly said that the West is engaged in a proxy war with Russia over Ukraine that...
She said the who? That who is involved in a proxy war? She didn't say Ukraine. She didn't say China. She didn't say any other. She said the U.S. This is what Russia said. Russia says the U.S., and that's straight out of the scripture.
Than any other state.
Salakia.
Nuclear apocalypse. Russia, which has more nuclear weapons than any other state, has repeatedly said that the West is engaged in a proxy war with Russia over Ukraine that could escalate into a much bigger conflict.
She said the West. But who is controlling the West? The whore that rides upon the beast. The whore is the United States. The beast is NATO and the EU. And they're trying to induct the Ukraine into NATO as we speak so they can put those weapons of mass destruction, including nukes, on the border between Ukraine and Russia. Okay, so carry on.
The United States has committed $37 billion in a security assistance to Ukraine since Putin sent troops into Ukraine in February of last year. Joe Biden told fellow G7 leaders on Friday that he backed a joint effort with allies to train Ukrainian pilots on F-16 fighter jets, according to a senior U.S. administration official, though there is no commitment as yet to supply the jets themselves. But a former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, said that the more weapons that are supplied, the more dangerous the world will be. And the more destructive these weapons are, the more likely the scenario becomes of what is commonly called a nuclear apocalypse. Now, the West says that it wants to help Ukraine defeat Russia, but has repeatedly insisted it does not want to trigger a direct confrontation between the US backed NATO military alliance and Russia. But Medvedev said that NATO did not appear to be taking the possibility of nuclear conflict seriously. He said that they are wrong, and at some point, events can move in a completely unpredictable scenario, and the responsibility will lie entirely with the North Atlantic Alliance. The Russian military did state on Tuesday that it had routed militants who had penetrated the Belgorod region from Ukraine, killing more than 70 of the Ukrainian nationalists. Medvedev said that responsibility is carried by the Kyiv regime and ultimately by its sponsors overseas. That is, Washington and the countries of the European Union, along with the affiliated states like Britain and others. This is their responsibility, direct and immediate. Now, in the meantime, it's also been reported that Ukrainian intelligence suggests that Russia has moved its nuclear weapons from the storage facility in the Belgorod region, which shares a border with Ukraine. In a TV newscast interview, the representative of the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine said that they had received information about the movement of the Russian nuclear weapons in Belgorod. He said that the Belgorod 22 facility, a storage facility for nuclear weapons, and Russets are also evacuating from the area. With that said, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that Russia says it deployed a fighter jet to prevent U.S. bomber planes from crossing the border. The Defense Ministry said that the crew of the Russian fighter classified the aerial targets as two U.S. Air Force B-1B strategic bombers. It added that the bomber planes did not cross the Russian border and that the Russian fighter jet subsequently returned to its home airfield. The jets were deployed in March 2023, and according to Russia's Ministry of Defense, the foreign military aircraft were successfully diverted before the Russian jets returned to their air bases.
Now, I just want to say real quick, they were talking about Belgorod, not Belgrade. All right. Just like this, it says Russia says they deployed fighter jet to prevent U.S. bomber planes. Okay, so you can try to distract all you want to from U.S. leading this whole charade, if you will. Why are U.S. bomber planes flying over Russia, crossing Russian borders? What is the U.S. doing way over in that would be like Russia over here flying bomber planes over the U.S. What do you not understand about that? Okay, now back to Belgorod, right? The incursion into Belgorod, right? Going back to whatever, this, okay? They were U.S. tanks or APCs or fighting vehicles, right? They were U.S. vehicles with, oh, well, they had, supposedly they had Russians in them or Ukrainians or NATO fighting forces, whatever, but they were U.S. vehicles crossing over into Russia. Okay, let a BMP, let a Soviet, let a Russian tank go over the border from Mexico into the U.S., what would we have? We would have World War III instantly. Come on, people. People wake up, all right?
Baltic Sea has witnessed in recent months several interceptions by Russian, US, and NATO aircraft. If we are not careful, we can definitely end up in an armed conflict with Russia. And I know I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. One miscalculation or one accident will tumble us into a war with them.
Now, what do you think? Just read this. Russia says it deployed fighter jet to prevent U.S. bomber planes from crossing. What do you mean? We are provoking, when I say we, I mean the U.S. is provoking Russia, and she correctly said that they have the most nuclear firepower out of everybody. Why is the U.S. provoking Russia into a war? Why? Why? That's what's going on. So eventually, it's going to happen because the U.S. is not going to stop.
Or with China, even in the South China Sea. So, certainly a very dangerous situation. And with that said, I would like to move along and talk about this next headline. The South China Morning Post is reporting that Chinese scientists war games hypersonic strikes on U.S. carrier group in the South China Sea. The report goes on to read that hypersonic weapons could be catastrophic for the most potent aircraft carrier group in the U.S. fleet, according to war game simulations run by a team of military planners in China. Over 20 intense battles, Chinese forces sank the Ford carrier fleet with a volley of 24 hypersonic anti-ship missiles in a simulation run on a mainstream wargame software platform used by China's military. In the scenario, the U.S. vessels are attacked after continuing to approach a China-claimed island in the South China Sea despite repeated warnings. A paper detailing the war game was published in May by the Chinese Language Journal of Test Measurement Technology, and it is the first time the results of the simulated hypersonic strikes against the U.S. carrier group have been made public. The researchers said that almost every U.S. surface vessel was shattered by the attack and eventually sank in the simulation. The war games suggested that the U.S. carrier group, previously regarded as unsinkable by conventional weapons, could be destroyed with certainty by a relatively small number of hypersonic strikes. In the meantime, as tensions with Iran have escalated over its nuclear program, the U.S. military this month posted pictures of a powerful bomb designed to penetrate deep into the earth and destroy underground facilities that could be used to enrich uranium. The U.S. Air Force.
Let me stop it right there, real quick. Now, we moved from Eastern Europe, okay, which is Russia against so called Ukraine and all their allies. They went to China, southeast, or the South China Sea. Now we're in the Middle East, which is the Valley of Yehoshaphat. So she's touching on each of these. Did she say something about North Korea or the Korean Peninsula? Not yet. Okay, so anyway, she's hitting all of the theaters. Okay.
On May 2nd, released rare images of the weapon, the GBU-57, known as the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. Then it took the photos down, apparently because the photographs revealed sensitive details about the weapon's composition and punch. The publication of the photographs comes as the Associated Press reported that Iran is making steady progress in constructing a nuclear facility that is likely beyond the range of the GBU-57, which is considered the U.S. military's last-ditch weapon to take out underground bunkers. Now, speaking of Iran's nuclear program, the IDF chief said that negative developments could prompt Israeli response. The IDF military chief said that Iran has made more progress in uranium enrichment than ever before, and we are closely examining other aspects of the Iranian.
This is the main war. Okay, the Battle of Armageddon in the Valley of Yehoshaphat. Okay, this is where everything is going to culminate. and they try to downplay it like, things are more important. Uh, the Ukrainians, who are Russians, fighting against Russia is nothing. Okay, that's a family feud. Right? What's more important is the Arabs, the Dragons of Arabia, and the Carmanians, who are the Iranians, fighting against the Dukes of Edom, the Amalekites, who are over there in our land right now. That's the main event. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
Path to nuclear capability. Without going into details, he said, there are possible negative developments on the horizon that could prompt action. We have abilities and others have abilities. We have the ability to hit Iran. We are not indifferent to what Iran is trying to build around us, and it is difficult for Iran to be indifferent to the line that we are taking. He said that Israel's capabilities against Iran are good. We need to strengthen them more so that we can carry out a broad campaign against Iran. The military chief said that a potential war against Iran could not be conducted in the same way as a battle in a single arena. He said that given a game against 5 players, the strength of our power will be great. Now, speaking before the IDF chief at the same conference, the National Security Advisor said that Israel was not surprised by Monday's reports on a new underground Iranian nuclear facility that is likely impervious to U.S. bunker buster bombs. He acknowledged that, of course, it limits the ability to attack, but added, there is no place that they cannot be reached. So, certainly a very tense situation with these nations. And as always, I will continue to keep you updated.
All right, so she didn't go into the Korean Peninsula. She didn't go into Africa. She left a couple out, but good enough for today. And let's see, we'll touch on Vlad real quick. Why is America stirring the pot? Well, the Most High is using the whore to do what? To stir up. I will stir. And keep your eye on this, okay? Because all these wars put together add up to World War III. Just read it in the NLT. Isaiah 13 and 17. Look, I will stir up the Medes against Babylon. They cannot be tempted by silver or bribed with gold. Look, I, the Most High, Yahweh, will stir up the Russians against Babylon, which is the whore, which is America. Russia knows it's fighting against America. Why is Babylon poking and prodding on the Russian borders? Because God is stirring up the Medes, Vladimir. So look to see. This war is escalating under everybody's nose. Babylon is flying planes and doing incursions with their vehicles into Russia right now. And the mainstream media ain't saying shit about it. They're trying to disguise it. Oh, well, those were Russians in U.S. vehicles. Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, we're watching it go down. It's a beautiful sight. So we're hastening the day. With that, we hope that the elect were edified. You brothers and few sisters, with that, I'm going to say shalom.